In 1945, as the war entered its sixth year, the world had been caught in the grip of uncontrollable darkness. In every corner of the earth the sky is filled with smoke and blood, the sorrow of the deadliest conflict. Every second on every battlefield the soldiers continue to fight, so that death lurks in every corner of the world. In the Pacific, the United States succeeded in repelling Japanese troops on several islands. Meanwhile in Europe, Allied troops had reached the German border despite Japanese troops, and Germany continued to be brutally gassed, and continued to be forced to surrender. However, Japanese troops continued to fight to survive. Opponents saw the war becoming increasingly terrible. The Allied troops planned to create a humanitarian tragedy, which would open the eyes of the world. And here's the complete history. In late 1944 and early 1945, the situation for Nazi Germany worsened. After the invasion of Normandy on June 6, 1944, Western Allied forces managed to break through German defenses and began moving into the heart of Europe. On the eastern side, the Soviet Red Army also launched a major offensive and pressed the Germans from the opposite direction, forcing the German troops to retreat to their own territory. Massive air attacks by the Allies devastated many of Germany's major cities, destroying vital infrastructure and demoralizing the population. Supplies of fuel, food and weapons were running low, while morale among the German army also began to collapse. In April 1945, Soviet troops reached Berlin and began a battle to capture the German capital. Adolf Hitler, who previously believed in Germany's ultimate victory, finally realized that defeat was inevitable. On April 30, 1945, Hitler committed suicide in his private bunker with Eva Braun, his wife who he had just married the day before. After Hitler's death, Germany was on the verge of total destruction. The new government led by Karl Dönitz immediately began negotiations for surrender. On May 7, 1945, Germany signed an unconditional surrender in Reims, France, and this was confirmed the next day, May 8, 1945, in Berlin. This date became known as Victory in Europe Day, V-Day, which marked the end of World War II on the European continent. However, although Germany's defeat ended the conflict in Europe, the war continued in Asia, where Japan continued to fight Allied forces. In the Pacific, the war against Japan was longer and more brutal. Japanese troops showed extraordinary determination to persist, even though they suffered heavy defeats on various battlefields. In order to conquer Japan, the Allies faced the prospect of a direct invasion of the Japanese archipelago, which was expected to result in enormous casualties, both on the part of the United States and Japan. At the same time, the United States had succeeded in developing its first nuclear weapons through the Manhattan Project, a secret research effort involving some of the world's leading scientists. This project was a major effort led by the United States. With support from allies including the United Kingdom and Canada, the goal was to develop nuclear weapons. The United States begins launching B-29 Super Fortress bombers, which carry the deadliest weapons in world history. Namely a bomb with the power of more than 20,000 tons of TNT. This bomb, known as Little Boy and Fat Man, would level the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in a matter of seconds. More than 90,000 Japanese died, most of them civilians, and 1 million people lost their homes. This bombing became the most destructive air attack in history during the war.